A 240-page book sits in a vault in New Haven, Connecticut, and nobody on earth knows what it said. I've held photographs of it myself, grainy, decades-old reproductions passed hand to hand by scholars who'd never touched the original. The Voynich Manuscript, 600 years old, written in a cipher so complete, so impenetrable, that cryptographers, linguists, and amateur codebreakers have spent 5 centuries staring at those pages and coming away with nothing. Not one confirmed word, not a single sentence they could stake their lives on. Let me back up. The story starts in 1912 when a Polish-Lithuanian book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich, yes, that's his real name, acquired this thing from a Jesuit college in Rome. The manuscript had been sitting there for centuries, passed between collectors and scholars, each one utterly baffled. Voynich knew he'd found something extraordinary. He also knew he'd found a problem he couldn't solve. The pages are filled with precise drawings, plants that don't exist, astronomical diagrams, strange bathing scenes with nude figures, and underneath it all flowing, elegant, utterly meaningless script, or so it appeared. The handwriting is too consistent to be random. It follows rules. It has structure. But those rules lead nowhere. I've read the logbook myself, the catalogue of attempts to decode it. In the 1920s, a Yale professor thought he'd cracked it. He was wrong. In the 1960s, a cryptographer believed he'd identified the language. He was wrong. In the 2000s, artificial intelligence was brought in. Still wrong. Each failure was precise, documented, and utterly sincere. But here's what matters. The fact that we can't read it hasn't stopped us from trying, and that reveals something brutal about human nature. We're meaning-making creatures. We see a pattern, and we asterisk to solve it. We see a locked door, and we can't rest until we find the key. There's a philosophical principle at work here, what existentialists call the confrontation with absurdity. We live in a universe that doesn't owe us meaning. The Voynich Manuscript is a perfect mirror of that condition. It looks like it contains meaning. It feels like it should be decipherable, and yet it resists every attempt at interpretation. Some scholars now suspect it's an elaborate hoax, a Renaissance artist's joke, perhaps, a book designed to look meaningful while being completely hollow. If that's true, it's the perfect prank, 5 centuries of brilliant people humiliated by someone's idle hand. But I don't think that's the point. Even if it's a hoax, it's still teaching us something real. It's teaching us what happens when we encounter genuine mystery, the kind we can't solve by working harder or thinking smarter. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus taught that we control our effort, not our outcomes. We can control whether we show up to the problem. We cannot control whether the problem yields. The Voynich Manuscript is the ultimate Stoic test. Centuries of effort meeting absolute resistance. What I've learned from studying this obsession is that we're often running from the wrong finish line. We want the asterisk solution asterisk. We want the moment when the code breaks and the meaning floods in. But that moment may never come. And the question becomes, is the pursuit still worthwhile? I've covered enough human endeavors to know this. The people who find meaning aren't the ones obsessed with answers. They are the ones who have learned to value the asterisk inquiry asterisk itself. The Voynich researchers aren't broken people. They're people who have chosen to live inside a question. And that's where the manuscript's real power lies. It's not a code to be cracked. It's a mirror held up to our own need for certainty. In a world that increasingly demands quick answers and instant clarity, this 240-page book sits in a vault and asks, what if some things aren't meant to be solved? Maybe that's the real decipher. Not cracking the language, but understanding why we're so desperate to. We're creatures built to find patterns, to impose order, to wring meaning from chaos. The manuscript doesn't need to be read to teach us. It just needs to exist, unsolved, patient, eternal. Subscribe for more explorations of mysteries that reveal something true about ourselves. Because sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about solving the puzzle. They're about what the puzzle reveals about who we are. Subscribe for more explorations of mysteries that reveal something true about ourselves. Because sometimes the most important discoveries aren't about solving the puzzle.